Herzlichen Dank, Ishaka und Team. Ich wünschte, ich wäre ein bisschen früher gekommen, aber ich hoffe, ihr hattet einen schönen Kirtan. Jetzt geht es weiter mit dem Programm. Wir haben eine Lecture, die geht bis um 5 Uhr. Danach gibt es Prasaram und am 4. nach 6 gibt es eine Japa-Meditation, wo ihr das Maha-Mantra auf den Beats lernen werdet. Dann um 7 Uhr geht es weiter mit dem Abendprogramm. Das ist eine Verehrung von den Deities. Und dann um 8 Uhr bis halb 10 geht es weiter mit Kirtan. Der Sprecher heute wird Rasashraya Rama sein. Rasashraya Rama ist ein Mitglied unserer Gemeinde schon seit seiner Kindheit. Er hat einen Abschluss, einen Masters in Robotics, an der ETH und ist auch im Management Board dabei und hat dort die Rolle für die Events. Also er ist verantwortlich für alle Events, die in diesem Tempel stattfinden. Das Thema von heute, Rasashraya, was ist?
4 Säulen der Zivilisation.
4 Säulen der Zivilisation. Das ist das Thema von heute. Ist jemand hier zum ersten Mal? Herzlich willkommen. Ist Deutsch, Englisch? Who speaks only English? Okay. Wer spricht nur Deutsch? So, okay, the lecture is going to be in English, wonderful. Okay, then Rasashraya Rama.
for some technical difficulties. Anyways, we try what we can. Thank you also from my side to coming here, taking this time on this Sunday. Summer has finally gone, I think. The cold weather has started, and so I hope I can tell you something warm. I feel quite unqualified to speak in front of such a qualified audience, and therefore I hope that my speech you can take at least something valuable home today. We will start today always with a song called Jaya Radha Madhava. It's a song that describes the spiritual world, and after that we are going to start. going to tell some prayers which we usually tell to all the spiritual teachers who have given us this very, very valuable knowledge and wisdom. And after that, we can start. Umakyana dimaranda sigyana anjala shalakya chakshurum militam yena tasmei Sri Guruve Namaha. Sri Chaitanya Manovistam Sthapitam Dina Budre Swayam Rupa Kadamakyam Tadadi Svabadatika. Namo Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prastaya Budre Srimadi Bhaktivedanta Swami Nidinamine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Vastavada Siddharine Ye Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. I think this is not going to work, but I will just put my little screen here. You just have to open your eyes very wide, and hopefully we can manage that. These are only some pictures there, but nice pictures, so it would be nice if you can see them. So the topic I chose for today is the 4 pillars of a civilization, and I want to start with a question to you. What defines a civilization? Oh. So this is a question to you. I'm going to speak on the 4 pillars of a civilization. So I thought first, just in general, I don't want some intellectual or sophisticated answer, just in general, civilization, what defines a civilization? What would you describe? Bea?
I think for civilization it needs rules, different rules. You can't stay together.
Okay, some laws and rules to live together. Yes.
Culture, technology and art.
Culture, technology, art, yes. Language, wow.
A society which is expected to abide by a set of rules and boundary conditions.
So that we can co-live with the others also. Yes? Responsibility. Oh, this is a tough one. Another question. Who is a civilized person?
Accepted by the society's norms, then he's civilized.
Oh, okay.
Someone who follows the rules of God. Someone who follows the rules of God.
Okay, follow the rules of God. But in general, if you would describe someone as civilized person, what should he usually do, or what is his traits?
Sophisticated person.
Sophisticated person?
They should fit into the civilization.
Okay.
Follow Dharma.
Follow Dharma. Looking for a particular thing. Yes?
Someone who actually abides and he understands the norms of the society he lives in.
Okay.
And he's also a person who can communicate and understand others and have a certain amount of dharma and peace, which he expects to other people.
Yes?
I think someone who doesn't harm others and not himself.
With these 2 questions, I just wanted to put something in perspective. For civilization, we all mention language, technology, science, nowadays even military strength and power. These are all defining nowadays what is a civilization, all external material things. But usually when we say someone is civilized, we speak if he has a good character, good behavior, he knows how to respect others. So it's related to behavior. While civilization, somehow this term nowadays we use to define how advanced they are in all these material things. And it's interesting because initially a civilization, for a civilization to found, to start, you need civilized person, people. But after so many years, we have forgotten what the initial core values were of a civilization. All these civilized persons, when they came together, they had certain set of principles, which is why a civilization could start. But after so many years, nowadays we think someone is educated, a country has power, science and technology, this defines a civilization. Why is it important? Why am I bringing this point, this topic today in this Hare Krishna temple, where we want to know what Krishna consciousness is? Because the Vedas, they also give a definition for a civilization or a civilized person. And for the Vedas, the definition for a civilized person and what defines a civilization, both is the same. For both definitions, the Vedas use the same core definition, same core principle. And it describes that for spirituality, for advancing in spiritual life, you need first to become a human being, a civilized human being that is not behaving like animals. And this set of principles, they will help us to understand what's the human consciousness or what we are able to advance with our human body. And particularly, it speaks of 4 principles or 4 values, 4 virtues. And these are, in the brackets you see the Sanskrit terms, compassion, daya, cleanliness, saucham, truthfulness, satyam, and austerity, tapa. For the Vedic culture, Vedic scriptures, if someone abides or someone inherits these principles, these values, then he's known as a civilized person. So for the next remaining hour, or remaining time, just want to go through these points and see why they are important to be a human being. And consequently also why they are important for a spiritual being. Let's start with compassion, daya. I want to tell the story of this gentleman, Shonso Kido. He's a Japanese guy, and he's an equestrian. He's a horse rider. A very talented one. And there was an Olympic in the 1930s in Los Angeles. And somehow his teammate, he got injured, so Kido, he has to jump in and replace his teammate with his horse. And this is a horse running for a certain amount of miles with certain number of obstacles where the horses have to jump over. And remarkable performance is that Kido, he grabs the lead. He's the first one in this race. And he's running this race, and he's just running this race, and he's leading the race, and it's just one obstacle remaining, And if he jumps over the last obstacle, he basically wins the Olympic. He basically wins the gold medal at the Olympic. But what happens is that before he makes the last jump, Kido, he pulls the reins and he stops the race. He drops out. He stops and he drops out and he loses the Olympics. Later he's asked what happened. Well, I mean, it's just the last one jump remaining. You could have done it. Why did you stop? And then Kido said, while I was running toward the last obstacle, I was feeling in myself that something is wrong with my horse. He felt that if he would make the last jump, there is a risk that his horse might get injured very badly. And he didn't want to risk the life of his horse. Therefore, he renounced the gold medal. And what a guy. On this day, he lost the Olympics, but he won as a human being. And sometimes winning or acting as a human being is more difficult than to win a gold in the Olympics. So for his great act, they have put a plaque, and there's something nicely written. Kido, he heard the low voice of mercy, but not the loud acclaim of glory. If he had won the race, he could have gotten glory, gold medal, but he heard more that he should be compassionate, and therefore he put that principle higher than winning the Olympic. And this story shows very nicely that the compassion is a very, very important trait for a human being. The Vedic understanding is that we are all not this material body that we now see, but we are all spiritual beings. And as spiritual beings, we are qualitatively all equal. We might have different bodies and different animals, plants, everything. They might externally appear differently, but inherently on the core, they are all spiritual beings. So there is not a degradation on that level. There is not a degradation of this is more important, this is a more highly important person than the other one. And especially the Vedic scriptures describe not only human beings, but animals, plants, everything that is living is a spiritual being. And as human beings, especially, we have to learn to develop this vision and to show compassion. The Vedas, they describe, since we are all spiritual beings, we are meant for cooperation. We are meant to help each other. As on a body, different limbs, hands, feet, the stomach or the eyes, the nose, everything, they serve the stomach, all acts cooperatively and helping each other. Similarly, we individuals, we spiritual souls should help each other on their ways and not be selfish. Usually, the way we treat other living beings, especially the defenseless beings, the voiceless beings, this shows the real person we ourselves are. It says a lot about ourselves. And actually, the lack of compassion comes because we have a lack of sensitivity. We don't feel what the other living being is feeling. And Srila Prabhupada, the founder Acharya, founder of this Krishna conscious movement, he says, that the reason why we have wars in this world is because of these excessive slaughterhouses we have. Why? Because we are ready to slaughter so many animals. And why are we ready? Because we think they are foreign. They are not related to us. We think that they are not like us. And especially the slaughterhouses, slaughtering is done in closed buildings where you cannot see it, and we think it's far away, I have nothing to do with it. And this same mentality then can transfer to the wars human beings are fighting. Because it's exactly the same mentality, thinking other people are not related to me, so why do I have bothered to protect them? The wars are happening anyways very far. I'm just the president, I just press a button and I don't have to do anything, I can hide. The same mentality. So Prabhupada says wars are happening because we don't have the sensitivity, not even for compassion, not even for animal lives. So it's such a small step from losing compassion to other human beings. Just want to also relate another story. For today's talk, I have, for every principle, I have brought two stories. One outside of India and one story from the Vedic tradition. So just want to give nice stories. And this is a story from a man, a devotee called Kureshan. He lived 1,000 years ago in southern of India. And Kureshan, he has a very, very famous teacher. He's called Ramanujacharya. He's a very, very great Krishna devotee. Very excellent devotee. He did remarkable things and also very important for our tradition. And at that time, 1,000 years ago, in this area, Krishna devotees were persecuted. The king, especially the king, since Ramanujacharya, the teacher of Kureshan, was a very, very famous Krishna devotee, the king of that area wanted to persecute Ramanujacharya and imprison him. So this Kureshan, he hears this news, and he goes to the teacher and tells him, I heard that they want to capture you, so please leave the country, it's safer for you. So his teacher Ramanujacharya, he leaves the country, but what Kureshan does is, Kureshan then puts the garments of his teacher to disguise himself as his teacher and goes in front of the king. And the king captures him, and the king demands from him that he changes his fate, but Kureshan doesn't agree to that. So what the king does is that they poke his eyes and make him blind. Somehow later, Kureshan could escape from this prison, and with the help of others, he meets finally his teacher again, Ramanujacharya. And when Ramanujacharya sees him, the teacher is so touched and sad. One time, on one side, he sees, his student has sacrificed his eyes for him, and on the other side, the teacher wants to give him back. He sacrificed nearly his life. So his teacher tells him to go to a certain place, Kanchi, to a temple, and says, go there and pray to Krishna. Krishna will appear there, and he can grant you the wish and give you your eyes back. So Kureshan follows. He goes to this place, Kanchi, he prays, and Krishna from the altar, he appears there, and Krishna is ready to grant him a wish. And Kureshan at that time, what does he ask? He says, You know, the kings and the subordinates of the kings, they are in ignorance, which is why they don't know what is good and what is evil. So please grant me one wish. Please bestow your compassion unto them and bring them back to the right path. It's a very remarkable situation, because here the Lord himself appears in front of him. Choreson could have asked anything he wanted. He could have asked his eyes back. He could even have asked for revenge and said, let the kings rot in hell or whatever. Let him lose everything. But Choreson, he says, bestow compassion onto them and bring them to the right path. Compassion is not a sign of a weakness. Compassion is a sign of maturity. It's a sign of strength, and especially it's a sign of knowledge and intelligence. Because with compassion, you go from your egocentric view, you expand your circle, your vision and your knowledge. And when you meet people, you don't just judge them on what you just see, but you know there is a reason why they behave in a good or a bad behavior. There is a reason behind, so let me help this soul to find back what is actually good, what is actually Krishna conscious. In your life you will meet many ungrateful people, many arrogant people, busy people, who are envious people. But someone who's compassion, he can look through it, past it, and still help that living entity. So therefore compassion is a very essential trait, principle for human beings to follow. Next, I want to speak on cleanliness. Here, maybe you know this lady, Florence Nightingale. You know?
Please, may I just ask what did happen to the horse from this from this gentleman?
I don't know.
Japan?
It survived, but I don't know.
Maybe I will Google it. Thank you.
Lady Nightingale, she revolutionized the nursing. This was in the times 1800, 19th centuries, 1820 something or 50. And she was born in a very wealthy family, and very early age she had a liking for helping and nursing. But at that time, especially in England, the nursing was not what is today. It was not so taken care so very nicely. So she goes to Germany and learns what it means to actually care for patients. And then she comes back and she lives as a nurse. And then a Crimean War breaks out. And in that Crimean War, England is also fighting. And they have already, in 1 year, they have 18,000 soldiers injured. And now they have to care for these soldiers, but they don't have the resources in Crimea. So that responsible person is inviting Nightingale to Crimea to help these people there, to take care of these soldiers. But when she arrives there, what does she see? Everything is dirty. All the soldiers are laying around, all their bed sheets and their bandages, everything's very dirty, there's vermins and everything, the house is unclean. So what she does first is she cleans the whole area, the whole hospital, and gives them, introduces laundry, that everything has to be washed, etc. And in such a way she introduces cleanliness to this area. And just within some months, the death rate has decreased to 2/3 of what it was initially. Just because she kept that place clean. There was no danger for infection, etc. anymore. And this is an interesting example because just taking medicine was not enough for the soldiers to get healed. They required cleanliness around them. So cleanliness is a very important quality or principle, and Srila Prabhupada says cleanliness is next to godliness. Why? Because Prabhupada explains that you can be clean in two ways, externally and also internally. Externally, of course, in your house, your rooms, your body, etc. But internally, with your mind, with your thoughts, with your judgments, with your intelligence, and especially with your heart. So, especially why is it important that our heart and mind gets pure and clean, is that because only then they can function in a way they are meant to function. When a mechanic, he wants to repair something, he has to first clean his tools. If it's rusty, he has to remove the rust before the tool can work according to its meant purpose. Similarly, our body, our mind, and our heart can only function in the correct way when it's pure. Otherwise, our mind and intelligence, everything will distract us or bring us to ways and behaviors that is not meant to perform. There's another pastime, it's called Gundija Marjana. It's of Lord Chaitanya. You see on the altar, it's Krishna appearing on this world 500 years ago. And there is a festival in Jagannath Puri called Radha Yatra. And maybe you have also attended the festival here in Zurich. We also celebrated where we take Jagannath out on a cart and we pull him. In this area in Jagannath Puri, Jagannath will go out of his temple and he will go to the Gundija Marjan, Gundija temple there. And Mahaprabhu, since this temple is only used once a year, he goes there and gets permission to clean the temple. And with all his friends and associates, he goes in there very enthusiastically, and for a day, or I think even some days, they clean thoroughly the whole temple. And this has also a very, very symbolic meaning. Because Mahaprabhu says that Radhayatra, the meaning of the Radhayatra, where we pull the Lord, is that we are pulling, asking the Lord to come to our temple. And which temple? We have this body, which is a temple, and inside is our heart. Actually, we want the Lord to invite to our heart. So if we want God to come and sit into our heart, we have to purify that place. And so they are cleaning it, and by cleaning it, so many dusts and dirt come. And also in our lives, when we start to purify ourselves and our thoughts, we might then start to understand, oh, I had these impure thoughts and impure behaviors. And we might be thinking, oh no, is this me? Is this really me who behaved like this? But don't worry, by cleaning this process, all this dirt will go out and you will become very, very jubilant and joyful. As Mahaprabhu was. They all cleansed this temple, chanting and dancing. And at the end, when our heart is cleansed, Krishna will enter our heart and we will become very, very joyful. Therefore, cleanliness, purity is a very, very important or one of these pillars. The next principle is truthfulness, satya. For this, I brought Abraham Lincoln as an example. You know him, a very famous president. And in his early life, I want to speak something about his early life. He lived very simple. He helped his family on the farm, etc. But whenever he found time, he would grab something to read. He was always into reading. Whatever he found, he wanted to take and read. So one day he asked his teacher to lend a book of George Washington, and he got the book, but since it was a big book, he could not finish it one day, so he keeps it somewhere in his house. But on that night, a very big storm comes, and the book got wet and destroyed. So he's a small boy, small child, and does not know now. He has borrowed this book from his teacher. What shall he do? But he takes the courage and he goes back to his teacher and says, sorry teacher, the book is destroyed. I will repay you. I don't have money, but I will repay you. Give me some chance. So the teacher tells him, okay, you can work for me for some time. So he's working as a clerk in a shop. And one day a lady comes and she buys many, many items from him. And he sells all the items. The lady leaves. She lives some miles away from that store. And the evening, Lincoln is counting all the money he got. And then he recognized he has charged the lady more than the actual price. And then he thinks he cannot live with this. He takes the remaining, the amount which he has charged too much, searches the lady all in this area, finds her, and gives the pennies back to her. Truthfulness, therefore, is a very, very important trait. Why? Lincoln, he was alone when he was counting the coins. And he could have said, I'm a small boy, I need anyways money, no one is watching, I can steal it. But integrity and truthfulness is very, very important if we want to find out at the end who we really are ourselves. I will just explain why. Because we are all in search, in pursuit of truth. We all want to find out what is the absolute truth, and we all want to find out who we are actually also in truth. And on this path, where we want to find out who we truly are, how can we find out the truth if we are not behaving truthfully? It's interesting, if someone behaves dishonestly towards you, we are very much disturbed. We don't raise a child and tell the child, tell lies. We tell the child, don't tell lies. Why? We don't want to be lied at. But why is it so that when it comes to us, we are sometimes ready to act not truthfully? Why are we ready to tell sometimes lie? One teacher of mine explained that because to tell the truth sometimes and act truthfully is more difficult than just to tell a lie. We just tell a lie because we want to escape the challenges or the responsibilities. Therefore, we tell lies. And but for the pursuance, especially when we want to find out what's the ultimate truth, truthfulness is very, very important. I want to tell the story of another king from the book of our movement called Srimad Bhagavatam. This king is named Harishchandra. He's coming from the Surya dynasty. You may know Lord Ramachandra. He's coming from that dynasty as well. He's a predecessor in that dynasty, and he's a king of the kingdom called Ayodhya. And one time when he was traveling, somehow a sage called Vishwamitra, he was meditating, and somehow Harishchandra, the king, has disturbed his meditation. So for an excuse, to excuse something, Harishchandra tells Vishwamitra, the sage, that in future, whatever you ask from me, I will give it to you. But at that time, when he gave this promise, he didn't think really what this sage is going to ask. He thought it's a simple sage. He might ask some simple things. But sometimes past, this sage comes to his kingdom, and the sage tells him, I want to do a sacrifice, and I need such and such amount of wealth and gold that I can perform this sacrifice. And the amount that the sage put forward was actually so much that even if the king would sell all of his kingdom, that amount would not be settled. So the king, he has given his word. He gives the kingdom to the sage Vishwamitra. He and his wife and his son, they leave the kingdom. But he has not paid enough to the sage. There's still something remaining. So he does not know what to do. And then his wife says, the queen of the kingdom, she says, let me work, go to a family and let me work as a maid there, so that we can pay back the amount that we have. What a remarkable queen. She and her son, they go to a family, they work as a maid, and Harishchandra, he's also searching for a job, could not find something. At the end, as a keeper of a cremation comes and offers him to work at the place of cremation. And many months passes, and one day a woman comes with a dead child in her hand and wants to cremate that dead son. And Harishchandra asks, do you have money to pay? She says, no, I don't have anything. I don't have anything, please cremate my son. He said, and Harishchandra said, I have to take something from you. I need some payment. But when he looks at the child, he recognized it was his son who has died. And then he looks at the woman, it was his queen. Somehow the son got bitten by a snake, the son has died, and his queen now comes with the son to cremate him. And he's thinking about his life. He was a king. He has given a word, which is why he left the kingdom. And now his situation is such that they don't even have money to cremate their own son. And suddenly at that place, all the demigods appear. The sage Vishwamitra appear, and they say, and they explain him the situation that they wanted to test him and to spread his glory, that how truthful he was to his words. And they all enacted this pastime to show how truthful this king was, and to also give a lesson to the people in general. There's a very famous quote by President Wilson. He says, if you lose your wealth, you lose nothing. Because if you lose your wealth, you can get it back. If you lose your health, you lose something. But if you lose your character, you lose everything. So it's very important that we live truthfully, that we don't break our promises, that we don't cheat, because otherwise, if we act not according to truthfulness, then we will lose ourselves. And the last pillar of these principles is austerity. And I want to mention here Henry Thoreau, also an American guy, lived in the 19th century. And he met Emerson, the Transcendentalists, and who also has read the Bhagavad Gita. And at a very early age, he learns that there is something higher than just material pursuit, material careers. There is something higher, something spiritual that we should look after. And what happens is that his brother dies, and then he really thinks, is that the life I'm living now? Is that really that I want to live? And then his friend Emerson, he gives a certain land where he can live, and he goes there and lives very, very austere, very, very simple. He builds his own little cabin, a small cottage, and he grows his own food, cuts his own woods, etc. And he starts to live very, very simple, very, very austere. It's even said that he would, even his clothes, even it's very torn, etc., he will always repair it so that he can live in such a way. And why I'm bringing his example is that he, in these years where he lives in this cabin alone, very austere, he realizes that we are, in this world, we are so much thrown into this life, into this education and career, that we forget to look at the higher purpose, the higher goals in our life. And we are so much occupied and busy with pursuing material things that we don't ask higher questions. Therefore, austerity, what it does, Prabhupada says, the definition of how the Vedas use austerity is, you voluntarily accept inconveniences. Do you voluntarily discard comfort so that you start to realize what is really needed for surviving? You start to learn to control your senses, your desires. You start to learn and teach your mind. Is it really worth it, or is there some higher purpose behind which I should look after? And Prabhupada himself says a very, very nice quote, simple living, high thinking, meaning that if we start to live simple, we will not be slaves of our material desires. We will not be slaves of our material senses, etc., but we start to become masters of our senses and body. It's interesting, we want to change this world, we want to change externals and situations, etc., but actually what you can change is only you yourself. And what you can control is actually only your body, your senses, your mind. And if you don't learn to control your senses and let your desires just whimsically go around, why do you then want to change others in this world? So austerity, tapa, is a very, very essential trait, quality of a civilization. And another story I brought from the Srimad Bhagavatam is the Dhruva Maharaj. It's a famous story, but because time is very, very fast today, I'm going to skip the story. Sorry. But it's a very famous story, you'll find it everywhere. And just want to conclude. So these four principles the Vedas describes are the foundation of a Vedic civilization. And it makes an analogy. In India, cows and bulls are very, very divine and sacred. And the Vedas makes an analogy. It says, if we don't observe these principles, then it is like cutting the legs of the bull. You have to imagine, in India, bulls are very, very sacred. So if you don't follow them, it's like cutting the legs of a bull, which is a very, very violent scene. And the cow, who is standing next by, sees this scene, and the cow is very much in grief and in anxiety. And the cow also symbolizes Mother Earth. And if we don't observe these principles, we are putting so much burden onto Mother Earth. All this burden we are doing nowadays to the world with the wars and how we treat nature and other people and animals, it sprouts out because we don't take them very seriously. But the Vedas says if you follow these principles, this principle will be a protecting shield in your life. I explained Mr. Kura, who sacrifices Olympic. On that day, he lost the Olympic. And I explained Kuresen, who lost his eyes. We heard the story of Harishchandra, who lost his kingdom. They all lose external things, but on that day, they didn't lose themselves. They didn't lose but these four principles were always protecting them on their way to spirituality and Krishna consciousness. So the Vedas say that if you follow them, if you take them seriously, these will help you to help in your spiritual life as well, and especially for self-realization. And at the end, to get love for Krishna and God. So, thank you for listening. It's nearly time. I want to conclude here. And thank you very much for listening very attentively. I just want to invite, if there are some comments, something which you want to share, or some questions, you are very much invited. Otherwise, Pastor has some final announcements.
I have a question. You said very nicely that Prabhupada said, while we have these slaughterhouses, so we are going into inner war and external war. Like if you go back to India, say 3,000 years back, there were no slaughterhouses, we are vegetarian. So it is like how still we can keep down our inner war, because we go in war because we don't have these four pillars. How we can strengthen our inner war or inner struggle.
By not killing them and not, especially here in the Krishna conscious movement, we don't eat meat. So this is we do to show compassion. So compassion to other living entities, to animals, to other plants, etc. And compassion to other human beings.
If you have these pillars and where that love comes in.
For compassion you require love. How do you want to show love, compassion without love? And the understanding for Vedas is that we start to understand. I don't look at you as the male body you have now, but I start to see you as a spiritual soul inside, which is now covered by this external body. So when we start in spirituality, when we start to develop this vision, I start to know really what is necessary for you, what is the real necessity in your life. How can I really help you in your life? And Prabhupada says the best welfare activity is to spread the Krishna consciousness message of the Bhagavad Gita, of spirituality, because today's society and civilization is in lack of this knowledge. So in this way, when we spread the words of Krishna and share them with the others, we can, by giving this, we start to develop compassion, and also internally, these wars will come to an end. I actually meant an external wars, but you said internal wars also. A nice meditation. We have inside also wars we are fighting with ourselves. And I think by showing compassion, you also start to learn how you have to deal with your own problems. Because then also other people will show compassion onto you, because you are showing compassion to them, and they can also help you guide. Since it's over 5, I want to finish. Thank you very much. Astor has some final announcement.
So, thank you very much, Rasashraya Rama, for this lecture. It was a real eye-opener, even though probably all of us heard those four pillars. But I guess just wearing a tie in the suit doesn't make me a civilized person. So I'm gonna really meditate on this, and thank you very much for this, this clear picture. So now we have prasadam outside. After quarter past 6, as I mentioned, there's going to be chopper meditation here, guided chopper meditation. And then at 7 o'clock, we're going to have a ceremony for the deities. And then 8 o'clock till 9:30 is going to be again kirtan. And then I want also to mention that next week on Wednesday we have the Radashraya, a big festival. It starts at 4 o'clock, so if you're free, please come and join the festival. Otherwise, hopefully see you next Sunday. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Oh, okay.